Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Union Arena Deck Tech. Today, we've got something special. We're sitting down with Cleric from TCC to talk about the brand new Red Asta deck from Black Clover. This deck is all about combining aggressive Asta plays with surprising control elements that I didn't think a red deck would be capable of, giving it a unique twist compared to other fast decks in the format. We're going to walk through the fundamentals, the curve, the key cards, how the deck pressures, and what new players need to know to start winning games with it. So, first off, say hello, Cleric.
Hello, how's everybody today?
Awesome.
My name's Cleric. I'm from TCC or the Crashout Crew.
Yes. They play inside of the Rumble Rama community all the time, even when there's not a Rumble Rama. But anyways, let's start by getting the basics down. How would you describe the identity of Red Asta? Is it mainly aggressive, combo, or something else?
So I've played a decent amount of games with this deck now, and honestly, I feel as if this deck almost fits squarely into a mid-range. Now, it would be surprising considering it being a mid-range deck because it's red. Red is the aggressive color of Union Arena. It's pretty well known, but I feel as a mid-range deck, especially with your raids on the top end, you're actually doing a lot more controlling of the board than you would think.
Okay, so what role do you see this deck playing in most of your matchups? Are you going into them thinking, I'm going to be the control deck, or are you going into thinking, I'm going to try to outvalue them, or I'm going to rush them down and beat them at my 4Ks?
So in most matchup, I feel that you are the aggressor. So especially early game with your one drop Asta and your 2-drop Libe, you're gonna want to be aggressive. Take at least 1 to 2 life in the first couple turns if possible, and then later on you can turn into more of a control deck. You have your 4-drop Asta that allows you to remove the abilities on one of your opponent's threats.
Yeah, that card is really, really ridiculous. When I read it, I was like, I can't believe you just have a way to nullify what my thing does. I worked very hard for my Saitama.
Your raid? Sorry, it's gone. It's just a 4K.
What's the unique twist that Red Asta brings compared to other fast decks in Union Arena?
So I believe this is actually the first time in Union Arena English that we have gotten cards that deal with the top of your deck going underneath and trying to balance how you stack your raids with your low end cards.
Okay. So looking at you had more going?
Yeah. So for example, we have the 5-cost Asta raid. So 4K raid, while it's on your front line, at the start of your turn, you place the top card from this raid into your sideline, unless you can take a card out from underneath it and to place it into your sideline. So you have a stable 4K threat along with your other 4K that can gain impact when it attacks.
So looking at the deck laid out from 0 cost to top end, let's talk about how the deck flows. How would you describe the curve? Are you focusing on early pressure, or do you spike in the mid game and just set up early game?
So with Red Asta, you have a heavy focus on your low end. So you have a 1-drop 2500 with step. I've got a 3K that provides an additional name for my raids. So normally you're wanting to see your step early, and then you also actually want to see your event early. So Sea Dragon's Lair is a 2-cost event that says choose one character in your front line, and it gains your opponents cannot choose this character with abilities on characters, abilities on event cards, or triggered abilities until the start of your next turn. If I decide to target a Noelle with its ability, I get to untap one. So early on, what I like to do is I'll play the Step Asta or the Libe in my back line. I'll push up, get a couple damage in, step back, And then especially if you're able to get to 4 energy, let's say turn 3. It's a little much, but turn 3 or 4, I'm raiding and then protecting my raids with the Sea Dragon Slayer. Because more than likely, if you're providing aggression very early, especially with 4K or below, I'd say 4 or 3Ks, they're gonna get targeted. And this event allows you to keep them around longer.
So it's kind of a counter to all the other removal decks out there.
I would feel so, yes. It has a lot of ways to protect and prolong your threats.
So can you give us a example of a strong turn 2 to 4 sequence that sets up for a good mid game?
Yeah, so let's say I'm an opening hand, maybe a mole. So I've got 2 zeros, and I've got either a 1 or a Libe on my back line. More than likely, you're going to see maybe 1 to 2 of these Noels early game. It's great. So it's a 3 and 1 for a 3K, provides 2 and has step. And then during your main phase, you can pitch a card from your hand. She'll gain 1,000. So what I like to do is I'll keep a Noel on front line as long as I can, and then I'll step into usually this and maybe a couple zeros, and then I'm just going to start hammering out my 4K, my 4Ks.
Okay, so you just set up your energy line a little bit, try to protect yourself a bit, and then pull back with your step card, which I think step is one of those underrated mechanics we need to see more of in a lot of decks.
I do. I agree, because I feel like, especially with this deck, you have 8 step threats that your opponent has to watch at all times. And this Noel, along with Sea Dragon's Lair, you can turn this into a 4K with protection for everything and untap an AP.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. So moving right along, what are your control tools or removal options in Red Asta that new players might overlook when learning the deck at first?
So, control-wise, honestly, Red has a history of not having too many control pieces. Really, because it's Red. I'm going to be honest with you. We're going to ignore this color trigger. Unless you are in an aggressive matchup early on, 2500s are not going to be on your opponent's front line if you're hitting this color trigger in life.
Yeah.
So honestly, I'm going to ignore this as a removal option. Now, if we move on to the upper end, we've got Faust. So Knock Faust is a 4 and 2 4K, produces 1, comes in active. On play, you draw a card, and when attacking, what he allows me to do is he allows me to target an Asta or a Libe, give it plus 1,000, and then tuck a card from the top of my deck underneath of it.
And that Libe happens to be a 3K base.
Libe happens to be a 3K base, so I can make this a 4K base. And then I wouldn't even say crowning jewel, but the main focus around the deck is this raid. So it's 4 and 1 for 4K. When played, you place the top card of your deck underneath of him. And then you choose a character on your opponent's front line, and it loses all abilities until the start of your next turn. So what this raid allows me to do is I can raid this, put a card underneath of it, and then I can turn off, let's say, an opponent's Kento Nanami raid, which allows them to no longer have the buff or get the sideline ability.
Ooh. And you can nullify someone else's step so that they can't bring it back the next turn. Yes. Nullify impacts. Yeah. Oh, so many good things.
Absolutely. And then when attacking, once per turn, you can put a card from underneath of this Asta into your sideline. He gains impact until end of turn.
Yep. So being able to stack the cards underneath it with Faust is going to be really beneficial for pushing through that guaranteed damage, especially when you can target their only nullify impactor on the field and go, that's not going to do anything for you.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Then we move on to our 5-drop raids. So 5-drop Asta. So it's a 5 and 1 for a 4K. If on your front line at the start of your turn, you place the top card from this rated character into your sideline. If this character has a face down card underneath of it, you place that card into your sideline instead, and he gets to live. And on play, you get to kill a 4K or less on your opponent's front line.
That's such a strong ability. Union Arena is not known for allowing you to kill things on raid with small characters.
Absolutely not. And then we come to, honestly, my personal include to this deck. You're not going to see it a whole lot, but it is a good finisher. We've got the Noel Silva. So 5-1 for a 4K. So raid. And then as long as you've played an event this turn, she gains plus 1,000 and impact. On play, she checks your sideline for how many events that are in your sideline. If you have 2 or more events into your sideline, she can't be blocked by 3K or less. But if you have 4 or more on your sideline, then she has to be blocked if able.
That is a really good control element as well. The combination of you're not chumping with your little guy and you have to block me, with impact always being as an option for it in such a event heavy deck, that is something that I find really, really strong.
Absolutely. So your standard events, we've got 4 Sea Dragon's Lair that will protect your Noels or your Asta raids. You've got your 4 finals and your 4 specials. So I can special, kill a frontline character, raid Noel, and if I have 4, she becomes a 5K with impact, can't be blocked by 3K or less, and you have to block it with something big.
So many texts.
So much text, so little time.
Yep.
And then my one fun of is Yami. So he's a 5-1 rare 4K. When played, you may place 1 face down card under a character from on your field into the sideline if you do draw a card. So let's say I've stacked 2 or 3 cards underneath my raid. Well, I don't need to give him impact every turn. I can recycle that card for a card. Then when attacking, I get to choose one other character on my field with Black Bull's affinity. No, mainly, you're going to target your raids. And then I can put the top card of my deck underneath that character. Along with Faust, these 2 characters allow you to stack cards underneath your Astas to keep them going.
Very nice. So, moving right along after that, I believe the special is a standard special, usually. Yep, if you have an Asta, is a 5K, if not, it's a 3K.
Yep.
And moving right along from that point, what does your ideal opening hand look like in this deck? What is that hand that when you draw it, you look at it and you go, yep, this is going to be a good game?
I'm looking, more than likely, I am looking at, since you have 4 1s and 4 2s, you can keep a little bit of a greedy hand with this deck. So we're looking at an Asta, maybe 1 to 2 Noels, a luck if you can get it. Sometimes it's better in your life because it's an active trigger. And I'm looking at an Asta, a Libe. See, 1, 2. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we've really drawn a good hand, and we also get a Noel for early life or for early energy.
So all of that in conjunction, it just allows you to set up really well early game, and then you're not worried about your mid to late game because Asta handles most of the big scary things.
Correct.
All right. So do you think with a deck like this that you should be aggressively mulliganing, trying to find specific draws, or do you think an average keepable hand is just what you need in order to play the game against the majority of the meta?
Against the majority of the current meta, I feel a lot of people feel like 5 is a big top end.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, as long as your curve is topping out at 5, I have 8 cards that cost 5. That is it. As long as I can get at least 1 to energy producer and 3 1s in my backline, I'm happy. And then I can just play anything that I want.
All right. And of course, what are some unfavorable matchups that you think this deck is going to see in the local metas?
Oh boy. All right. So we'll talk about everybody's boogeyman first. Sukuna. So,
man. You mean that tier 2 deck? Okay, continue.
Correct. So, depending on what version of Sukuna you're playing against, this deck can be a little tricky to keep your raids alive. So, if we're talking about pure Sukuna, what your main problems are going to be early 5-drops from your opponent, freezing your Astas, especially a 5-drop. If this gets frozen, the frontline ability will still trigger and you're losing a card no matter what. For I would say for Nanami fingers, you're mainly looking at trying to kill them as soon as possible before Nanami can get online, because your only way to deal with a 5k in the deck is your kill spell, or you have 4 events and you played an event with Noelle to turn her into a 5k impact. Besides that, honestly, most of the decks you're not going to have too much trouble with as long as you can apply enough pressure early. Late game, Gawain, Purple Kogias might be a little bit of a hindrance because your biggest body is 4. So as soon as they raid a Gawain, or even 2 sometimes, you're going to have trouble with keeping your front line intact. Besides that, in every game I've played so far, unless it is another aggressive deck, you're usually okay.
Okay. Well, I think that covers most of the basics of the deck. Big thanks to Cleric, of course, and the rest of TCC for taking the time to break down this amazing deck. This deck has some real potential. It is awesome to have insight from someone who's planning on playing it quite a little bit, I feel. So make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to support, you can go down to the description below and do so to either channel. Thank you very much. Have a great day.